Namaste. Namaste, precious, precious souls. Welcome to the Book of Life. Here we go. The month of June. Everybody ready? Are you sure? Okay, that's good. So today we will be doing fourth degree lesson 14, Paradise, the realm of timeless knowledge. Get some more people in, and we'll do an invocation, and then we will get rolling. Have some fun. Okay. So go ahead and just place the tip of the tongue on the palate. Be in a nice receptive pose. To the Supreme Being, the Causal Logos, source and fountain of all life, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, to all of our spiritual teachers, Holy Master Choa, to Buddha Padmasambhava, the Circle of Seven, to Robert and Earlyne Chaney, to Burton Bigelow, to Master Astara, Lord Kuthumi, Lord Rama, Lord Zoser, to the Astarian hierarchy, to the Lord Yehoshua Bar Miriam, the Lord Christ, Holy Mother Mary, Lord Kuan Yin Buddha, Lord Gautama Buddha, to all the great ones, to our oversouls, our higher souls, our celestial guides, our angel guides, we humbly invoke for your divine blessings. May we be a channel through which thy holy ones approach the world. May we be a center for the radiation of thy power. Teach us to travel light that we may better gain the heights, break the bonds that bind. Teach us to give ourselves entirely to thy service, to attune ourselves to thy will. Teach us to lay down the small personal life for the greater cosmic life, and to love with the love of God in full faith. Om Tat Sat Om. And we release all unauthorized connections. Cut, 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 cut. All right. Paradise, the realm of timeless knowledge. Fourth degree, lesson 14. Paradise. We have learned much concerning borderland, hell, highland, and summerland. What of the real heaven, the realm called paradise, we asked. I am somewhat handicapped since I do not yet dwell there, Burton answered, but I have been taken there many times. So will do my utmost to inform you. Paradise is earth made truly perfect, a stratified belt of incomparable glory, composed not only of the finest spiritual particles emanating from earth and from all the orbs composing the Milky Way, but also containing the downpouring white light from the great beyondness. Paradise, encircling earth and its lesser unseen spiritual spheres, is our true earth. To say that the earth world is unreal is not a satisfactory description. As you have already been told, the words unreal or illusory only mean that your world is unenduring, not permanent. That it forms, that is, forms on its decay, grow old, die. Your world is only unreal on your side of the mirror, while you are still on earth. Once one has passed through the portals of death, experienced the transitions on the astral and lower mental planes, and has attained the causal heights of paradise, one is no longer a separate unit, but a part of the great whole. And from that standpoint perceives the whole of the magnificent universe as it flows outward from the mind and heart of the Supreme Being. It cannot be said that we have become extinct, annihilated, that our individuality has become so merged with the whole that we have been elevated out of existence. We have only attained the zenith of our experience as a part of God's great idea. We are by no means annihilated. We have taken our place on a plane of life where all minds are in harmony with our own. There can be no friction on this causal mental level, no quarreling, no warring, nothing but pure idea and its fulfillment. And we share with the Creator divine love for all creation. Therefore, we dwell in no nirvanic trance. Rather, we dwell in an expanded life. We share with the Creator the contemplation of the building and creation of other universes ad infinitum. We share in the intellectual concept of them, understanding the purpose behind them and the part they are to play in the unfolding drama of the univerculum. We are indeed but one cell in the great mind of God, but we are no more extinct or annihilated than is a cell in your own mind. Therefore, your material universe is only unreal to you as long as you dwell on your side of the veil, within its confining web, as long as you wear a material form, an astral form, or even a shadowy mental form. When you have gained your liberation to become a part of the great whole, then your realization reverses itself and you understand, viewed from your vantage point from paradise, that indeed heaven and earth are one. The realm of timeless knowledge, paradise, heaven, lies like a belt, a zone, a girdle of real substance, occupied with atmospheric islands and immeasurable and complex star systems. There is reportedly a river of electromagnetic currents rising from the extremity of Earth's southern pole, ascending through borderland, through Summerland, to embrace the shores of paradise. Of the reality of these celestial currents, I myself can testify. Portions of this celestial substance extend to encircle the planet. They become undulating circuits and currents of white light penetrating the densities of your atmosphere. Although we refer to these majestic currents as rivers, they are not comprised of liquid, but of etheric substance, fluid enough for spirit forms to immerse in, yet solid enough to walk upon, should we so desire. It is not matter, it is spirit substance. Visualize, for instance, your escalators. They move, yet they are solid. The current is moving, is fluid, yet by adjusting their consciousness, spirit forms walk upon its surface. Currents rise from your South Pole, penetrate borderland, merge with the celestial streams of Summerland, and flow into paradise. Descending from paradise are returning currents entering Earth's poles and atmospheric substance. It is the flowing of these celestial rivers which creates the music of the spheres. When Etherians depart borderland for higher realms, they usually travel via the air currents of these celestial rivers, a feat which can be accomplished only when the form has become refined enough to harmonize with the rarefied currents of the rising streams. These ribbons of light contain not only the music of the spheres, but the word of God. That is, they vibrate with the divine sound of the Godhead. It is this sound, the holy nod, to which Astarians attune when, through the practice of Lama Yoga, they contact the divine stream of Om. Thus, Astarians need not wait until they have dropped the physical form to harmonize with the celestial rivers of paradise. The ascended soul. The ascended soul is almost transparent with light. The beings of these realms communicate through thought waves and facial expressions. Celestial harmonies pervade these spheres like a spiritual essence, and rays of light descend from the great central sun itself. Clothing, if it could be called clothing, is that of white light. It would be a mistake to say that the clothes are white as we visualize the color white. It is that they are so ethereal and shining that they appear as a gossamer gauze of airy lightness. The aroma detected from these lighted regions is like a holy vapor. The music itself seems to be pervaded not only by the spiritual essence of sound, but of the scent of heaven. The homes there become vast spiritual estates made seemingly of pure pearl or crystal, surrounded by a luminous essence. The beings that inhabit these indescribable celestial spheres are like the angels themselves. Their faces radiate a heavenly light. Lacking wings, which they are often depicted as wearing in the artwork of earth, still they pass through their realms like indescribable flashes of white light. Among other activities, they regularly project the light of their blessings. Frequently, they descend to the people of earth to inspire some spiritual undertaking. They seem never to cease in their labor of love for those below them. The soul between incarnations. Once the soul is liberated from the personality attributes and is freed to enter the causal realms, it must be realized that you will be conscious of your heavenly surroundings only to the degree that you developed a spiritual understanding of them while on earth, and have built into your causal body the atomic particles amenable to existence in this high sphere. Those who did little to embellish the spiritual self will have very limited awareness and a very brief tenure in this causal plane, and will soon reincarnate after attaining these heights. On the other hand, the soul who has devoted much time to spiritual progress, spiritual understanding, and study will spend an enormous length of time in paradise, reaping the rewards of his or her last incarnation. For the majority, the period spent in the gestation state of Highland and Summerland will be the longest, depending upon the character of the past earth life. The personality is a sum of all of its physical, psychic, emotional, mental, and spiritual characteristics. Death only means that the physical aspect has dropped away. All other characteristics must be absorbed into and become an innate part of the human soul during the gestation period. The purity of paradise. It should be remembered that only that which is purified can enter paradise. Therefore, the length of an individual's stay there will be determined by the quality of purification achieved while on earth. Only that which is worthy of immortality will actually become immortal and identified with the causal or divine nature. All that is unworthy will be woven into the seed atoms to become active again in the next incarnation. But the soul itself will be purified before it again descends for another earth life. Therefore, at each new birth, the soul is given a new opportunity, a new beginning. And unless it allows the karmic record unfolding in the seed atoms to dominate, it can completely overcome and overbalance such a record with a new life of positive karma. At the end of the gestation period, just before the soul enters paradise, there again occurs the panoramic vision of the past life and lives similar to that which occurred at the moment of physical death. Especially, the record of the past life is again reviewed and becomes blended into a vision of the life to come. The soul will be instructed upon the approaching mission, that which it should attempt to overcome, its weaknesses pointed out, and the principal purpose for incarnating again brought into focus. Only then will the soul slip into paradise. Such a panorama will be viewed again just before the soul begins its descent from paradise, seeking rebirth. This is called nirvanic bardo. The nirvanic bardo, sometime after you cross into the other world, sooner or later, your soul will yearn to enter into a subjective trance through which, turning inward, you become acquainted with yourself. This is not a death bardo experience. It is not the adjustment trance experience when one first passes over. It is the nirvanic bardo trance of subjective bliss, usually presented to the pilgrim just prior to entry into causal paradise. One might term it a state of subjective dreaming. Many initiates experience this nirvana more than once, and while they yet abide in Summerland. How can one describe the experiences in that inner world? One almost despairs of attempting to describe them for fear of sounding comparatively shallow while being misunderstood. One experiences an ecstasy and rapture beyond human words to describe. How can one describe sunlight, the subtle perfume of a rose? How describe the emotion of love so that one has not felt it could recognize it? How describe the color of the wind? It is as useless to try to paint the ecstasy of the inner spiritual reverie, a reverie of purest heavenly bliss. Having passed through the bardo at the death initiation, having endured the purgatorial realms and been purged of unhappy and unpleasant experiences, in this higher nirvanic bliss, one only becomes acquainted with memories of loveliness and beauty. In that inner state, the restless, ever-moving waves of life are stilled, and the soul comes face to face with itself and views all the wonders of its past. In that inner world, you find the image, the simulacrum of everyone you have ever loved. And simulacrum is an image formed in the likeness of a being or thing. You live over again the times of each love and understand the ties which drew you and that soul together. Back you travel through the eternal spaces of the past, meeting the simulacra, the images of all those contacted in happiness. You live over again, too, the old dreams of ambition and attainment, not only in the last life on earth, but all the other lives gone by. No sorrows are there in this bardo journey, no tears, no regrets, no times of sadness, no fears. For this inner journey is only a journey of the joyous memories. This is the world of the heart's happy desires. In this deeper dreamland, things do not actually exist, only the memory of them. For those who experience a life of hardship, pain, and sorrow on earth, who have endured healing experiences on the astral, who have served well on the plains of Highland and Summerland, for such souls, entering this interior peace is what we call entering into rest, for it is indeed that. It is reprieve from pain and anguish of a life on earth. It is the long hoped for time of peace. It is the inner subjective heaven world of reward for goodness. When you awaken from this interior journey into the self, you feel gloriously refreshed. Remembering the wonders of your explorations, you long to share those remembered memories with others whom you love. Sharing these inner adventures with others is indeed one of the glories of heaven. Often, in this inner world, one dreams forward in time, seeing what is to come in future incarnations in the world of matter. In this state, you can look both backward and forward. By witnessing your past for yourself, you can determine your future. You can understand the why of many things that came to you in other lives and why you must return again, not as punishment, but as an opportunity. Everything in the universe seems to be within when one has truly mastered this inner perception. The past and the future fuse into the present, and one begins to understand something somewhat the saying, I am that I am. Time seems to be no more, for you seem lost in eternity. There is no gauge, no standard by which to measure the marvel of the experience. A few on earth sometimes experience this inner journey, but no language of earth can describe it, for it is not of earth. One who knows the experience will never be the same. Though some of the magic of the supreme moment may fade in the light of the commonplace world, never again is the purpose of living quite as it was before. Whether such an awakening comes to one still on earth, or to one who dwells in the spaces between the stars, the experience eventually comes to all. The damage of counterfeit bliss. The trips taken by the user of LSD and similar drugs fringe upon these interior states. I cannot warn too strongly against seeking these reverie experiences through drugs. It is not a natural endeavor. That is, the inner nature is not prepared for such a release of brain chemicals. The soul has not yet traveled through the death bardo, has not yet passed through the purging of the purgatorial time of purification, has not arrived at a time when the subjective journey only holds the bliss of rewards. This being true, a journey via drugs erupts into a release of all these levels prematurely. The soul, the mind, the brain cells are not yet prepared for such a chemical impact. Although some may touch the hem of the robe of glory, even the glory experience can damage a soul, a mind, a brain, had not prepared for the cosmic explosion. I, Earlyne, have listened to reports from several who describe these drug-induced experiences. Some describe experiences which are simply neutral in nature, neither very positive or very troubling, but some, due to lack of spiritual preparation, are not only troubling, but can impede one's spiritual progress for a time. One man saw the figure of the Christ standing afar off in front of him. He sought to rush toward him, intending to fall at his feet in reverence and worship, yet suddenly, blocking his way, was a figure of his father. An imaginary figure, of course, but nevertheless a true blockage. He realized the purpose of the Father's image. In earlier years, he had shamefully mistreated and misjudged his father, and in this hallucinatory state, he realized he must gain his father's forgiveness before he could approach the light of the Christ. The problem was, the father was deceased, therefore inaccessible for forgiveness, or so he thought. This man faces the remaining years of his incarnation convinced he cannot attain longed-for spiritual progression until he meets his father on the inner planes and obtains his pardon. It is the awakened remorse which is his living hell. He could easily ask for forgiveness through prayer, but he refused to believe that. Such a subconscious guilt weakens his potential in every enterprise he enters. He feels unworthy of success in any field. Since he is convinced there was absolutely nothing he could do to obtain forgiveness and absolve his guilt, would it not have been better to wait until the soul was ready to reveal it during the death bardo? Listening to this description of a soul journey within, it brought to my mind the teaching of the Christ, Matthew 5, chapter 5, verse 23-24. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there remember that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. How important is forgiveness? We have spoken of this before and explained that it is important to seek out those who have wronged while yet in the body and try to make good your wrong. Do anything possible to obtain forgiveness while yet in the body, for you must obtain it before you can reach the heights of the celestial planes over there. Burton continues, many people who are not highly evolved become habitual victims of the drug-induced subjective bliss, allowing their consciousness to sink into a bliss stupor. In this state, they become entirely indifferent to earth and all its problems, indifferent to their relationships with others, and give way to a state of waking repose. Such a state does not lead to spiritual advancement. The more highly evolved would never enter such an experience, considering it to be a state of spiritual stagnation, even oblivion. The drug-induced bliss destroys some measure of self-direction, and the soul progresses neither upward nor downward through any effort of its own. In the drug bliss, one can be subject to hallucinations. Some souls tend to create other hallucinations and live an interior life of their own. Such a happening denies the soul the opportunity of putting their innate powers to work. Thus, the soul can lose the entire purpose of the present incarnation. Astarians and other seekers, while avoiding the drug trance, will seek to evolve to the bliss state through their spiritual practices, especially their meditations and periods of degree study. It is this naturally evolved bliss which the initiate strives to attain in order to unfold a knowledge of the self and of one's own interior life, to know more of the inner higher worlds. In these introspections into the self, you unravel soul secrets. You become acquainted with your own soul. It is far better for you to befriend yourself than to conquer an army. Study yourself, Astarian, your actions, your thoughts. Discover why you act in certain ways, why you do this, or why you feel thus and so. Meditate about yourself. Delve into your inner nature. When in doubt about your actions, your feelings, or any other matter, sit quietly and let the truth rise from the depths within yourself. Examine your motives. Acknowledge your own strengths and the areas which need work, nurture, and growth. Analyze your characteristics. Try to learn from and avoid acting upon any motivations will not lead to your own highest good. Strive always to attain your highest ideals, but do not become pious in so doing. Learn to recognize the truth about yourself. Until you can do this, there is little purpose in the inner quest of your own soul. One should form the habit of meditation while yet in the body. Habits that are formed while still on earth have a tendency to continue on the other side. Searching the archives of one's own soul, discovering how the causes begun in one life can produce their effects in another, may need to wait until one reaches the other side, but meditations on earth might reveal many such truths. The soul contains all this knowledge, and some such knowledge may be released to the outer consciousness if one learns how to quietly meditate about it. The soul does not yield her secrets easily. However, such knowledge rises only to the surface of the mind when it has attained the stillness of detachment, not detachment from persons of earth, but detachments from mundane pressures and things of earth. Most Astarians have experienced at least the shadow of such a reverie in the midst of meditations or studies. Therefore, meditate, Astarians, and continue your studies. Rest, daydream, reflect, repose. Lie down in a meadow and watch the white clouds drift by. Dream by the light of the fireplace. Quietly and peacefully contemplate the stars at night. Find some treasured moments to enter a wakeful reverie. While so doing, you may perchance travel inward to capture some of the rapture which will later be yours when you enter the time of your rewards on the inner planes. There is a bliss center in the brain. When through prayer, spiritual practice, meditation, study, the soul has purified the center, only then can the release of divinity chemicals be a good thing. Once prepared, an experience in illumination and cosmic consciousness occurs as a consequence of nature. To prematurely stimulate the bliss center through drugs can sometimes lead to an arousal of unnatural brain chemicals, which, erupting among unprepared brain cells, may result in permanent damage. The greatest damage is to the soul. The sufferings released through these bad trips, which can happen in some fashion while using any drug, not just LSD, are the premature stirrings of a guilty conscience, leftover remorse, usually from a previous life. The unhappy part of it is that although the suffering is released, the soul seldom is given the revelation to understand the why of the guilt and remorse. Such suffering, without understanding why, can bring on needless heartache. Therefore, seek for subjective bliss only through natural means, attempting to lead a spiritual life, which also means forgiving yourself when you make mistakes. Meditation, prayer, study of soul science, such as these lessons represent, a constant inner seeking and yearning for the light, and practically practicing the presence of the divine spirit. For most, the subjective bliss, the true experience, will not come until one has passed through the death bardo, the purging plains of purification, life on the highlands in Summerland, and is ready to enter paradise. Then the soul and the mind are prepared for the release of the chemicals of divinity, which send the consciousness into subjective, blissful contemplation. Such a state then comes about naturally. The soul is ready to view and absorb the wisdom released. is ready to make the revelations an innate part of itself, to react forcefully to the light imparted to it at that august moment in the eternal journey of becoming. The parable of Thaddeus. Concerning heaven, Burton continued, let me tell you a parable. It may do much to open your understanding about the realm we call heaven and its inhabitants. Once there was an angel named Thaddeus who was returning to the seventh heaven from an important spiritual mission in Borderland. He called a council of the mighty ones. I have astonishing news for you, he declared. I must tell you that of the pilgrims arriving from Earth into Borderland and the lower realms, there is hardly one who understands the true meaning of heaven. The mighty ones were indeed astonished. How can this be, they said. Return to Borderland, Thaddeus. Call assemblies of the newly arrived pilgrims and ascertain as much as possible concerning their understanding so that we may know better how to enlighten them. Thaddeus returned to Borderland. He sent out a call asking that groups of newly arrived pilgrims from Earth assemble. When they were gathered together, Thaddeus asked that each company present ideas of what its members had learned about heaven while on Earth. He promised each group that he would give them the heaven they had anticipated. The first company of pilgrims announced that it was ready to make its proclamation. Heaven consists of being ushered into the company of angels and experiencing perpetual happiness through communion with them. There, joy continuously reigns. Then the next company announced, heavenly happiness consists in perpetual feastings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For we have been taught that the tables of these patriarch saints will be forever provided with delicacies and incomparable wines, all sorts of sports, dancing, and entertainment. Another company then announced, heavenly joy consists of finding eternal happiness in reigning with the Lord as kings and queens, that we shall sit on thrones and enjoy the company of angels. There are to be pearly gates and streets of gold. Everyone is to have a place of one's own, glittering with dazzling diamonds and precious gems. Therefore, this is what we wish from you for our heaven. This was followed by an assemblage which gave their interpretation. To us, heaven consists of the perpetual glorification of God, singing praises to his name. We will hold a never-ceasing festival of joyous singing, shouting, and praising his blessed name. And so on it went, with believers from each of the great religions and spiritual movements discussing their ideas of heaven. Some mentioned spending perpetuity in nirvana, others communing eternally with nature, others dissolving into the great Godhead toward personal extinction, and so on. The angel Thaddeus then bowed low to each company and said, you shall each have your wish. The first company was led to a magnificent building and told to express their ideas of heaven to each other. They were to perpetually discuss various matters concerning religion and philosophy as they understood them. They entered enthusiastically into the various discussions for the first several days. Then, Thaddeus noted that certain individuals were seeking to depart the great house, only to sit dejectedly in the courtyards, which were walled about and impassable. Approaching them, Thaddeus found them to be miserable, bored, and unhappy. Feigning surprise, he asked the cause of their discontent. They replied, at first it was great joy to converse constantly on matters of religion and philosophy, but after several days of continual discussion, we have grown utterly weary. We seek to escape even the sound of a human voice. We have found that such discussion certainly does not constitute heavenly joy, but we cannot escape. We are told that none may leave because we have been granted our idea of heaven, and we are confined here to enjoy it eternally. We do not know how we can bear such heavenly happiness for all time yet to come. Then, said Thaddeus, you agree that your idea of heaven was superficial. That certainly your desires and your interpretation are only a part of what constitutes heaven. Indeed, we do understand, replied the anxious ones. But explain to us what true heaven consists of. You have discovered, replied Thaddeus, that what you believe to be the joys of heaven lead only to the actual destruction of all happiness. Heaven itself consists of being involved in that which is useful to ourselves and to others. Such usefulness originates in love. No soul can find true happiness in heaven nor in any other place unless it finds a way to be useful, to fill its time with that which brings soul satisfaction. Amiable conversation must be interspersed with activity. If accomplishment is taken away, joy ceases. Next, Thaddeus gathered the group which desired constant feasting with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, interspersed with sports, dancing, feasting, and public exhibitions. He led them into a beautiful house with 3 tables, one huge table for Abraham, a second table for Isaac, and a third for Jacob. With them were their wives, Sarah at Abraham's table, Rebekah at Isaac's, and Leah and Rachel at the table of Jacob. Soon the tables were groaning under the many delicacies and delightful food, and the entire group engaged in happy feasting, after which there were sporting events, dancing, and numerous entertainment festivities, following which they were again escorted to the loaded tables for more feasting. The angel soon noticed groups departing the festivities and feasting. Some sat groaning with overstuffed stomachs. Some sat staring stolidly ahead, wishing above all things to find some handiwork to occupy them. But all were detained at the gate of the house and told that they must remain here to seek again the joys of their heaven. Finally, they all turned despondently to Thaddeus. The very sight of a feast is sickening to us, and we have spent many days watching sporting events and festivities and dancing. It has become an endurance contest. We beseech you to let us depart and seek again the business of our days. We have discovered our idea to be an error. These are most surely not heavenly joys. Explain to us your idea of heaven, they begged of Thaddeus. Heaven consists of that which you wish it to be, he explained. In the heavenly world, there is food and drink for those who wish it. There are feasts and festivities. Such things, along with other activities, do bring joy, but they are never the source of continued happiness. Happiness can only come as each soul performs its duty to itself and to others, interspersed with festivities that enrich one's duties and usefulness. There is, deep in the consciousness of each soul, that which motivates it to be of some useful purpose, and if it is not acted upon, the soul finds no eternal happiness, no mental tranquility. Next, Thaddeus sought the group which supposed heavenly joys to consist of a city with pearly gates and streets of gold, where they sat on thrones as kings and queens of heaven. Follow me to find your heaven, said Thaddeus, leading them to a beautiful building. He gave each one velvet and silken robes, a scepter, and a crown. Entering the gigantic, magnificent hall, they found it filled with thrones. Take your crowns, scepters, and robes, and be seated on your thrones, advised Thaddeus. Eagerly they obeyed. No sooner were they seated than visions arose before them, showing the glittering palaces of gold that each were to inherit. They were vast, empty buildings of glory. But where are they over whom we are to be kings and queens? Where are the singers with harps? They asked, one by one, expressing disappointment at such emptiness. And Thaddeus answered, do you not see that you have been taught a mockery? That heavenly happiness does not consist of being a king or a queen and sitting on a throne, reigning with God? For you have forgotten an important lesson, that whosoever would be greatest in the kingdom of heaven must be servant of all. To be kings and queens, reigning with the divine spirit, means that one must serve one's own goals and assist others as well. Remember, all spiritual paths serve as the great lights in the world. You cannot aid this goal by simply sitting piously on a throne bearing a scepter and wearing a crown. One gains worthiness to a palace only as he or she earns it through service to those in less agreeable circumstances. Next, Thaddeus conducted the group who had persuaded themselves that heavenly joy consisted of perpetual glorification of God, singing and shouting praises. They were escorted to a gigantic temple. There, they were perpetually to worship God. For the first several hours, all joined in joyous communion, singing hymns, listening to long prayers, then enjoying lectures concerning the things of heaven. But on the second day, Thaddeus observed many had slumped wearily in their seats. Some dozed, others stared listlessly and yawned. Thaddeus approached them, and they seemed eager to speak to him. "We are so weary of this. We wish to escape the sound of continual singing and preaching, but we cannot. We have been denied exit, are told that we have chosen this place as heaven and must spend eternity here." "Open the gates of this place," they implored Thaddeus. "Let us return to our work-a-day world, so that we may turn our minds to other activities." Whereupon Thaddeus opened the gates and led them forth. To glorify the divine spirit, Thaddeus explained, means to do good works, but to seek also to act with faithfulness and love. True, acts of worship are an important part of your spiritual life, but it is only a part, not the whole. The congregation, vastly relieved, sought their homes in Borderland, wiser and better prepared to truly glorify their Creator. And thus it is with most pilgrims who find themselves in the new land. Each has an idea of what heaven is like. Each is given it as his portion until it becomes obvious that instructions and descriptions given him on earth were incomplete, not sufficiently inclusive, that one must seek some way to serve the divine spirit present in all of life. On earth, some are taught that heaven is somewhere above, a place abounding with blessings and delights. You can see that the joys of heaven arise not from a certain place, but from the state of life and mind. Heaven is arrived at through love and wisdom, put into practice through useful service to self and others. Every angel who inhabits a true heaven carries its own heaven within itself, and each gains the true idea of heaven only through service born of love. The essence of heaven, added by Earlyne. The very essence of heaven would be the happiness of creative work. To do less is simply existing, which most assuredly is not heavenly. Mark Twain expressed it well in his book, Captain Stormfield's Visit to Heaven. "Now you just remember this," he makes one of his characters explain to Captain Stormfield, who has just arrived over there. "Heaven is as blissful and lovely as it can be, but it's just the busiest place you've ever heard of. There ain't any idle people here after the first day. Singing hymns and waving palm branches is pretty when you hear about it in the pulpit, but it's as poor a way to put in valuable time as anyone could contrive. It would just make a heaven of warbling ignoramuses, don't you see? Eternal rest sounds comforting in the pulpit too. Well, you try it once and see how heavy time will hang on your hands. Why, Stormfield, a man like you that has been active and stirring all his life would go mad in 6 months in a heaven where he hadn't anything to do. Heaven is the very last place to come to rest in, and don't you be afraid to bet on that." And Mark Twain continues, "There's plenty of pain here, but it don't kill. There's plenty of suffering here, but it don't last. You see, happiness ain't a thing in itself. It's only a contrast with something that ain't pleasant. That's all it is. There ain't a thing you can mention that is happiness in its own self. It's only so by contrast with the other thing. And so, as soon as the novelty is over and the force of the contrast dulled, it ain't happiness any longer. You have to get something fresh." Continuing, he speaks of harps and of singing in an everlasting choir. I'll set you right on that point very quick. People take the figurative language of the Bible and the allegories for literal. And the first thing they ask for when they get here is a halo and a harp and so on. Nothing that's harmless and reasonable is refused a body here if he asks it in the right spirit. So they're outfitted with these things without a word. They go and sing and play just about one day, and that's the last you'll ever see them in the choir. They don't need anybody to tell them that that sort of thing wouldn't make a heaven, at least not a heaven that a sane man could stand a week and remain sane. That cloud bank is placed where the noise can't disturb the old inhabitants. And so there ain't any harm in letting people get up there and cure himself as soon as he comes. To stand watch at heaven's gate, the name of one is love, the other humor, the ancient axiom. Burton tells us more about the seventh heaven world he knows of in lesson 15. And we'll hit that in 2 weeks. Well, before we go, we will, if you guys want to, you guys into the June blessing? Yeah? Okay. So just go ahead and be in a receptive pose. Just place the tongue on the palate. Just place your palms facing up. To all those that we have invoked to. May the divine qualities in you reach out to unify and guide the circumstances of your life harmoniously with divine will and purpose. As this greater sense of unity with purposeful life flows through you and into the world around you, go to your labors with the assurance that you act in accord with the great purpose of life. Let the divine light in you become the divine light in all. And with Earlyne's prayer for guidance. Master beloved, who hast committed to us the swift and solemn trust of life, since we know not what a day may bring, but only that the hour of serving thee is always present, teach us how to be constantly alert to the claims of thy will and the call to service. Lay to rest by the persuasion of thy spirit our doubts and fears. Consecrate with thy presence the way our feet should go, that our humblest work may radiate. Lift us above unrighteous anger and mistrust into faith sublime. May we be modest in our times of wealth, patient in the hours of our adversity, serene in our disappointments, and humble in our moments of shining achievements. In all things, draw us toward thy perfection, that all the world may see in us thy radiant reflection, and keep us ever mindful that we shine for thee. Tat so. May this manifest into all, on all levels, and we surrender any reluctance. Stay, precious, precious souls. Thank you so much for joining the Book of Life. Welcome to June. We will see you all tomorrow for our blessing and the prayer petitions. And then we'll see you on Wednesday. Hopefully. Take good care. Have a beautiful day, night, morning, wherever you are. Namaste. Thank you again.